Good evening to my fellow cattle producers. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Freddie Keaton. I'm a cow calf producer here in Licking, Missouri. For those of you that do know me, you know that this is way out of my comfort zone. The reason I'm doing this and posting this video is because I think that this is a very serious issue that I want to talk to you about this evening. A few days ago, one of my Facebook friends posted a deal on Facebook about the beef checkoff program. So tonight, I wanted to gather some information to give to all of you people, because with everybody that I talk to, nobody seems to have an understanding of what their checkoff dollars do and where they go. So, with that being said, we all know that there's lots of issues facing the cattle industry, the 5014 bill, MC Cool, lots of policies that we cannot do nothing about because it takes politicians to get on board, and we all know how hard that is to get to happen. So, but this is one issue that the producers can do something about. There's a petition going around to bring the checkoff up for a vote. We, the producers, can make that happen. We don't need politicians to vote for something or make a policy. We can influence this on our own. Since his post, I've been gathering some numbers and some figures just to try to let everybody know what the checkoff has been doing. To start with, the cattleman's beef budget for 2020 was a total of $44.5 million. $40.9 million of that went to programs. Those programs are dispersed to 7 different contractors. The NCBA received $27.3 million of those funds. That is 67% of the budget. The U.S. Meat Export Federation, who is a subcontractor and has ties to NCBA, received $8.3 million, 20%. So that left $5.3 million for 5 other companies to receive contracts from. So we've got 2 companies receiving 80% of our national checkoff funds. So you say, well, it's going to the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, that's got to be a good thing. In the past recent history, we've seen that the NCBA does nothing but stand in the way and create roadblocks for anything that us producers would like to have done, policy-wise. So I got to looking at NCBA's budget to see what they're doing with all of our checkoff dollars. The latest report I could find was in 2016. They reported $62 million in total revenue. $6 million of that came from membership. That's 10% of their budget come from people paying dues to join their organization. $35 million come from your checkoff funds. Another $10 million came from state beef councils. This is how they spent the money. $25 million of it went to advertising and promotion of our product beef. That's 42% of their total revenue goes to do the job that they're hired to do. Seems kind of low to me. $15 million of it went to compensation. That's 25% of their total budget. It goes to salaries for employees. $10 million of it goes to program execution fees. $7 million of it goes to travel and conference expenses. That's 12% of their budget. $3 million of it is office related. So they collect all of this money that's from a mandate that we have to pay in, and they only spend 42% of it to promote our product. They spend 25% of it on 155 employees. I looked up the payroll, the executive compensation for the NCBA. 10 positions paid a total of over $3 million. The CEO of NCBA makes over $700,000 a year. That's what our checkoff dollar is doing. Folks, do you really believe that a CEO is worried about a cattle market when he's got a $700,000 cushion to fall back on? It doesn't matter to him what cattle prices are. They don't care. Now, I looked up their membership. They have 25,000 total members nationwide. According to the USDA, we have almost 900,000 producers in the United States. So NCBA represents less than 3% of us, but gets almost 70% of the national checkoff funds and another 8 million from states. Hey, Beef Council, don't you think if the producers wanted and believed in the NCBA and we wanted them to have our money, don't you think that we would pay our dues ourselves and support this organization? It's pretty apparent that we don't, when only 3% of the people are sending them dues. NCBA stands in the way of every issue that producers want. The first one being 50-14. They say no to government mandates. We don't want any government mandate telling us how to market cattle. But they're all for a mandated checkoff that we have to pay in. Now, all of the pro-checkoff people and the advocates for the association, this is their first comeback to that statement. The producers voted it in. The producers said they wanted the checkoff. So I went back and I looked. The last time the checkoff was voted on was in 1988. That's 32 years ago. I was 9 years old at the time. Do you think I had a vote? No. If I did have, in 1988, times were different. I might have voted for the checkoff. I think it served its purpose. I think it done some good things. But we're 32 years down the road. Things are different. Markets have changed. Our political environment has changed. The checkoff fund is limited in scope to what it can do and what it can do for its producers. It's handicapped. Guys, we need to retool it. We need to make something different that is beneficial to producers. I think after 32 years, we ought to at least put the thing up for a vote. I would like to have a say in whether or not I'm mandated to pay into a fund that works against me on a daily basis. And from all the producers I talk to in my little circle, none of them are for the checkoff either. None of them support the NCBA. Now, the NCBA, what people don't realize is in 1996, it merged, and it then became not just the National Cattlemen's Association, but it brought the packers on board. So they're representing two different sides of the industry, the packers and the producers. They have a direct conflict of interest. They cannot represent both parties fairly and objectively. There's no way that can happen. That would be like me and my wife going through a terrible divorce, her family having all the money and all the power and all the influence and hiring some big shot attorney to represent her, and me saying, hey, I guess I'll hire the same guy to represent me too. Now, who do you think's going to get the best end of that deal? Yeah, the people with the power and the money and the influence. And that's exactly what we're getting with the NCBA. They're representing the packer. They no longer represent the producer. Another issue that NCBA stands against, mandatory country of origin labeling. If you ask them, they say it's bad for cattle producers. It's bad business, bad news. We don't need it. It will hurt the U.S. producer. Well, my first question is, if MCOOL is so bad for U.S. producers, then why in the world did Mexico and Canada take us to court in the World Trade Organization twice to get it removed? If it's so bad for producers, why would they want rid of it? Guys, that don't add up to me. What it boils down to is the packers don't want mandatory country of origin labeling. So the NCBA suggests that we do voluntary cool. I say, what about voluntary checkoff? If we can do it voluntary on one thing, why can't we do it voluntary on the other? But they don't want to hear that either. The problem with the NCBA is they're the association that represents producers nationally. They have our politicians' ear. Whatever they say is what the politicians listen to because they think they represent us. How well has that worked out for us? They endorsed our great Secretary of Agriculture, Senator Perdue. In my opinion, he's a snake in the grass. We don't need him. I bet they even endorsed Pat Roberts, who is standing in the way of 5014. He is the chairman of the Agricultural Committee, senator from Kansas. Hey, Steve, this is a shout out to you. Here's an interesting stat. Kansas State Beef Council contributed $2.5 million in 2020 to NCBA. Biggest state to send funds to NCBA. Texas was second with $1.5 million. It's kind of convenient that the state that sends the NCBA the most funds has got the senator who was standing in the way of the bill. They're the ones that told the politicians that mandatory country of origin labeling was bad. And what you do, well, you know, they got it repealed. And then here's some things that all these pro-checkoff people want to say whenever you start talking about the checkoff. They say that it produces more demand. Demand is at an all-time high. If demand is so high for beef, then why are we selling dollar fat cattle? And it's not because of COVID, because this was happening long before COVID. Look back at the Holcomb fire back last August, almost a year ago. It was happening then. It was happening before then. If there's demand for our product that's so high, why isn't the producer receiving any benefit from it? Third, the other thing that they always bring up is the checkoff dollars add so many dollars worth of value to these cattle. It don't matter how much value you add on the packer side of it. It doesn't matter if the producer doesn't receive it. You can say that it adds value to our cattle, but when our percentage of the retail dollar keeps shrinking year after year after year, guys, your talk is cheap. Your words mean nothing. You have no credibility with me. I don't see the value that you're adding. I'm not reaping the benefits from it that I see. And then if you look over the last 30 years, all this packer consolidation and price fixing and manipulation, all this stuff has been going on under NCBA's watch. Why don't they do something about it? Why did they allow 4 packers to control 80% of our market? Why did they allow 2 of them to be foreign owned? Why didn't they stand up and stop it? Because NCBA doesn't care about the producer, guys. They've wiped out all the independent packers, independent feeders. We're headed for vertical integration if we don't do something and change things now. We have the opportunity to make something happen. Here's one that really got me. A few weeks back on NCBA's little TV show that they've got, Cattleman to Cattleman, they had a market analyst on. The host asked her what she thought the cattle market was going to be like for this year and any advice she had to producers. This was what she said. The market doesn't look very good. My advice to the producers is to tighten up your belts. It's going to be a rough year. Well, I don't know about you guys, but my belt is as tight as it can get, and I'm tired of being squeezed. I would like to be able to tell NCBA to take their own advice. Maybe you guys should tighten up your belts. Maybe it's going to be a rough year. Maybe you should learn to stand on your own 2 feet and not be collecting money from a mandated fund that we have to pay into to fund your organization. Guys, they couldn't even be open for business if they did not have checkoff dollars. They collect $6 million from membership. Their payroll is $15 million. They can't even pay a third of their payroll, basically, with their membership dues. That's how poor of an organization it is. Guys, if we want these other issues to happen, the 5014 legislation, MC Cool, I believe it's going to have to start with the checkoff. We're going to have to do something to defund NCBA and get them out of our way. I'm not saying I'm not for a producer participation fund. I just think we need to get rid of the one we got, look at a new one, create some more options that we can do with our funds, something that better serves the producer, not the big business side of the industry, not all the corporations and the big money. Now I know this is probably going to step on some toes. It's going to hurt some feelings. Some of my friends that are association members and beef council members, you're probably not going to like this. I would tell you that I'm sorry, but I'm not an NCBA member and I don't say things I don't mean. I'm not sorry. This is what I believe. These are my opinions. With this post, I'm going to post a link for the petition that we all can sign to get the beef checkoff brought up for a vote. Even if you're pro checkoff, what would be wrong with bringing it to a vote? Wouldn't you like to know that you've got the confidence of the producers? Guys, we deserve a chance to say what we think. We deserve a vote. So let's sign this thing. Let's get it brought to a vote. If it gets voted in, I'll live with the results. But all the people I talk to will not vote for the beef checkoff if it gets put up for a vote. What's that tell you? Share this link. All you sale barn owners out there, you guys deal with producers on a daily basis and come into contact with way more of them than a guy like me can. I ask you to share this link with them. Get them to sign it if they want to. Let them make up their own mind. But share it with them. Help the guys that help you. Help your customers so that you can stay in business. Guys, we need rid of this. Sign the petition. It's the one thing that we have control of and we can make change happen with. Let's make it happen. That's all I've got. See you guys.